sorry about that. It cut off. So, again, I say all that to shine the light on verse 14, where and when a prophetic piece of information was given during ancient times about the cloud. This is where it gets kind of eerie and interesting. So, Y2K, 1999, then 2019, COVID-19. So, it was already in the United States and already going around, but specifically in America, in September, there was I forgot what they called it, but in September 2019 was when the government made the announcement. So from 1999 to 2019, that's 20 years. So 20 cubits. Okay. So everything happens in 2, and number 2 is the feminine energy. And so we are a little past the 20-year mark in the 20,000s, in the 2000s, I'm sorry. So, like, remember that. The 20 cubits, a little past 20 years in the 2000s. So, verse 14. So that the priest could not stand to minister by reason of the cloud, for the glory of the Lord had filled the house of God. So first, the priest could not stand to minister by reason of the cloud. So COVID-19 forced the world into closure, a solitude, a hermit mode, self-reflection, going within to know thyself. So priests had to work remote, so God led them to sit and think, create new material to make the chaos make sense, pretty much. I'm not going to go into the whole thing about the mind map I made about that one. I'm trying really hard to just keep some of this simple the best I can. So COVID-19 created an integration for the cloud computing within the field of quantum computing. And so, like, most people were going remote except for the essential workers, which at the time I was an essential worker, but I was also dealing with this, and then I also lost my job while trying to embrace the fire of this cloud computing. So the second part of that verse, God's house was filled for the glory of the Lord. So then you take note to what I said earlier about discovering of the word, the Lord, that I broke down earlier. So our thoughts, our attitudes, and personal energy was building up the cloud. So these are the people that were working the remote from the home. Everyone just started going online. Even people's children, the schools, like everyone was going online because the collective consciousness, the computing, the quantum processors that are already equipped in our brain, which is like the pineal gland and all that, like it's already all connected to our thoughts. So, in September 2021 was when I came into the mix. So I thought that was kind of funny that COVID was September 2019. as far as what I saw for the United States, at least. And then in September 2021, after the 2020 vision, and then COVID happened in March, and March is like March Madness, right? So in September 2021 is whenever I also started things. So I not having a lot of computer background, but my gift to see the hidden and comprehend the hidden languages that are like used across the sciences, like where the words are like actually code, like code words representing actual people's life experiences. So the computer science, so when I read things having to do with anything, I see people's stories. And to me, that's upsetting. Like, it's cool, but it's upsetting to me because I want people to know, and that's part of my mission, is like bringing the awareness. Like, people need to know what is happening to your data. All these information systems, you're putting information in, and it's like that's your energy, that's your story, that's your soul, that's your spirit going into a system, pulling your energy from you, like our phones do it every day, but it pulls that out of you, and it's like you don't get paid extra for that, and that's why I talk about this. I wouldn't be surprised if there's something going on with like Binance right now, just because of your thoughts deserve to have merit, because you are building your reality and your environment by the data that's being collected on you. And so there are systems that are telling your old story, and I'm going to get to that here in a minute, but it's just, it's upsetting to me because you deserve to know. Like, we all deserve to know how we're contributing, because there are people making so much money off your data, and like, you're like, oh, I don't know, I don't care. Like, yeah, like, I'm protected and I don't care, but it's still like, I do care, because my soul is attached to my data. And I mean, if they want my old story, whatever, but it's like, I should still get compensated for it, because I went through the trials, I went through the fire, I went through the tribulations, so I deserve to have the money and the monetary means to live my life because of my story, my testament that I own. Like, that sounds too easy, right? So, my main focus when I came into the cloud stuff, so my main focus was mainly like power cells. So power cells is the watchword for me, and end users was a watchword for me, and the UI, so the user interface, so interface, IR, infrared, so computers, face recognition, like those were my main focuses, okay? And so and here I am talking about building like your temple, which translates to, that's your power cell, that's your domain, that's your heaven on earth. By the time 22 March came around, like, I was already pretty livid, and like, I was putting out, like, to multiple government entities about, like, people having more control over their own data. That thought was also inspired by the Meta Hive, which was something I didn't know anything about. But it's like, you can go in there and, like, buy your space in space. And I put my planet, like, way the flip out, middle of freaking nowhere. And I think it's still kind of out there by itself. But it was kind of inspired from that and linked to that. So, like, I was really putting out, like, the pressure, like, on, DevOps, like some of the people that were kind of tracking me, when it came to the consent forms and like acknowledging contracts, because we all have been just agreeing to terms on our devices, not fully knowing what we're, tying our souls to across the electromagnetic field. So, like, our souls are our greatest device, and our spirit is what assists in its journey. But you have to do the self-work, though. And that's the thing. And so that's like what the initiator of the flame is. Like, you're doing the self-work. And like I said, I already was bearing my own cross. But there's just people, they just weren't seeing me in the right kind of way. Because somebody else had control of my doggone old story, my old data. And they decided that they were going to put me to my old cross that they had no right to do. So this is an experience I had. So it's important for you to have control over your own data. There are people that can assist you with this. And I know people, but I don't, there's ways and there's contingencies for this stuff, because it's like in a 10-year plan. Like, they already knew this stuff was going to happen, but I was a big part of this, and I didn't have a degree in computer science or any of that. Like, it was just natural gifts that my soul, my greatest device, already had within it. I just had to get all the karma and the codependency and all those other demons away from me that I was like, thought I was getting away from, but they just kept trying to follow me, and eventually they all went, disappeared. But it was still like, there was so much tying me down that I did not realize. And I was someone that didn't always read the fine print, but I was like, oh, God sees all. And that's like really what my mind was. But I was like, I know a lot of people don't think that way, but it's because I thought that way specifically that my stuff ended up working out anyways in my favor. But it was still just, I think about the ones who don't and don't have that mindset. God sees all. And so that's why I harp on this so much. And sometimes, getting these messages out can be very exhausting, like to the point where I get nauseous. Like today I was getting very nauseous, a little emotional. Like the layers of like quantum entanglement that has been keeping people stuck because of cords to contracts that have not been fully cut due to data storage. They're out there in like the IoT, the Internet of Things, out there telling your old story, telling your story for you, and you don't know. And then we got Chat GPT. Dang, someone put your name in a thing, and just, that it's just, it's just mind-blowing. But it's your data and your story to own. And I told someone a long time ago, I was like, they were saying something about they didn't like the way something in their story was, something in the media about them in a promotion ceremony they had. And I said, you need to fall in love with your story, and it's yours to fall in love with. And kind of looked at me a little weird, but it was, whatever. But, so like I really went through some fires for the collective, because I care so very, very much about your souls and how beautiful your divinity can be when you're standing in your power and as the best version of yourself. And almost got a little cry there. So as a divine feminine energy, my nurturing and like motherly energy goes into these teachings, and the teachings are a big part of my responsibility, and I've made videos about the feminine energy and the responsibilities, so this is one of those responsibilities. But I already felt that before I even knew those teachings, so like that again in itself is its own miracle. So today's teachings were mainly about just the data you're putting out and how it's filling your temple, and the collectives also. So we pour into each other's cups in some way or another. And then I'm gonna just put a side note here before I kind of end, because this is another thing I've been going through, but another thing going on as far as gatekeeping in the Enoch. Another thing going on in the quantum economics, as far as like personal data and quantum computing is the spirit of like communism trying to enter in. And so like taxations, like theft, and so when y'all wonder like what the preppers and the bug out movement was like really for, like as far as like soul energy, part of it that no one ever says, but because everyone's like, oh, these people are crazy, but I mean they weren't crazy. What they were doing was they're creating a space, they're creating a timeline in the energy. So part of it was like they led the way and created the space to remove communism. So like they off grid. Hopefully we won't get to that part, because I feel like we can beat that all out. Like we're not gonna look like the desert in that movie Mad Max or whatever the other movies are like that. I don't. That's not how I see society going in the direction. Like, yeah, there's all this stuff out there, people creating this stuff, but it's like it's not gonna have to be that extreme like that. When I was a kid, I didn't ever see it that way, and I got a lot of prophetic downloads as a kid that played out almost very to the T for the most part in the last couple years. So it's like I just don't see us being in deserts, and I mean, I just don't see that. Like the world ends when you stop creating good things. So like yeah, some of this is also having to do with like space, and me trying to prepare the collective for the more like space exploration and create my own legacy, and just that being just someone in the general, in the collective that, it's cyberspace and space, psychology and spirituality are like mainly the things that I in quantum economics, like those are the things that I deal with. So I got my big five, right? But I'm not gonna get really like in depth to like the communism right now, because like I'm already like feeling pretty drained, and a big part of that is I think mainly just from living in the city. And it's funny because I've been seeing a lot of videos of, you want to run off into the forest, and like that, I've literally been feeling that for the last year at least. I mean, I felt kind of like that my whole life, but I mean, like really this last year or so, just like, I need to get away from the city. And come to think about it, when I was a kid, I lived more out in like the country, and I actually had that was my high time of getting a lot of downloads and like being a little prophet running around, giving the messages and stuff. Like, so yeah, I guess that makes sense, like why I just want to get out of the city so bad. But I will say that, like, I have been fighting and I have been standing my ground pretty hard against, the spirit of the communists. And so, like, that fight was more involuntary for me. So there was someone that was in my chain of command that spoke that word into existence during a moment when I was in my concerned motherly energy for, like, one of the soldiers that was assigned to me at the time. And so, I guess, and this was before I knew how powerful my energy is. And so, I guess, I somehow caught his seed of thought, and I'm in my motherly energy, so a seed of thought, and it was a male. And so lately I've been having, like, a really been going through, like, a really, like, rough patch, like, financially, just because I've been fighting that spirit, and I didn't really recognize it until a few months ago, and I was like, oh my gosh, this really sucks, because I didn't want anything to do with that, and, but I guess there's just something that's going to come out about it later, but I was, like, in my motherly energy, so, like, my energy is pretty high in that caring energy, and I caught that seed, and it's just been, it's been a struggle. So, I'm going to leave, my Cash App, link in the description box. So, like, I would, like, greatly appreciate any donations. I've left it in some of my videos, but, like, I haven't been really big on it because I'm like, I know that eventually, things are to work out for me financially, but this month has been a little rough. So, I would greatly appreciate any donations. So I'm going to leave my, the Cash App link in there, and, I appreciate y'all for listening, and like I said, if you resonate with any of this and you have your own story or your own calling, please, reach out to me, or just keep it to yourself, or do whatever you want to do with it, but just know that I am here for you, in that time, in this time, and whenever you decide to come out with that story. And like I said, like, I know people that, would be more than willing to help support you, because they tell you it gets kind of scary, and it's probably why a lot of people don't come out with saying certain things, because they're afraid of what's going to happen. And it's really not as bad as you think it is, but and it, because a lot of us already done the work and kind of cleared some of those energies out, it won't be as bad as the other ones coming forward. So if anyone, I guess, that you follow on YouTube, that you resonate with, if you have a link in some way to a story that you resonate with that sounds like also yours, like, I just encourage anyone at this time to come out with your stories, protect them, but come out with them, and, take control of your data, because law of attraction will bring those other things to you, and then you're going to start seeing the pattern of what you were tied to, like, what your soul was tied to. Like, that happened to me, and I didn't know I was tied to quantum computing in any kind of way until I started clearing out that energy and the cutting the cords, and then law of attraction, like, and I wasn't even talking about quantum computing, but it kept showing up in many different algorithms across many different forms of my stuff, and I went cold turkey on social media except for, like, YouTube. So when I came back online for all the other ones, it all started coming in, and then I started realizing, like, oh yeah, like, I was more connected than I thought I was, So it's like, it's just speaking from experience, you know, just me giving my testament. Like, a lot of us are connected to some things that we didn't know, and some of it isn't even your fault. It's just your bloodline, you know. You got to clean it out. But with that said, have a blessed night, collective, and I'll talk to y'all later.